Man, that was something I didn't expect over the weekend. And that thing was a 49ers W, and how it happened and why it happened. And, well, we're going to talk about it here in this episode. Anyway, hi, everyone. My name is Dylan Lasagna. I am the host of the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. If you're new, welcome. If you're a vet listener, welcome too. But anyway, this is the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. I'm Dylan Lasagna again, bringing you all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports for you casual sports fans out there like you and me. This is episode number 322, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about my San Francisco 49ers as they took on the Philadelphia Eagles to kickstart their 2025 NFL playoff run in the first round of the 2025 NFL playoffs, which that first round being the NFC Wild Card matchup. Now, going into this game, I had very low expectations, for this team, coming off a very poor loss in Week 18 to the Seattle Seahawks. They did not play great in that game. Very low effort from the offense with Brock Purdy. They were getting outmatched and overwhelmed by the Seahawks defense. Pretty much in a game with everything on the line, with the NFC West, the number one seed, which they really, really needed, given the state of that team. Brutalized, beat up, pretty much almost more than half of the defense on a hospital bed, and some parts of their offense too. Yeah, like injury mania was running wild in Santa Clara again. So yeah, they were going into this major underdogs, and I expected them, just like in 2021, when they were about to start their playoff run, to get their ass whooped in Philadelphia. So yeah, that was pretty much my expectation when I talked about it in the last episode. The filthy casuals preview to these playoffs when I talked about this specific matchup. So when I couldn't even talk about this team much when it came to the keys to victory. Right after the injury report, because the injury report was just bad. It was like very, very bad. So basically my key to victory for my San Francisco 49ers going into this game was, well, you just got to hope that the Eagles fuck up, because that's been the theme of the Eagles all season. They are so in and out, like with consistency, that they tend to fuck up. And the 49ers have to capitalize on those fuck ups. So yeah, that's basically my expectations, my very low expectations going into this matchup in Philadelphia. And, well, we're going to talk, as I've done all season long for my 49ers, we're going to talk about from both sides of these teams. And obviously, we're going to start with my 49ers. So going to this game with the injury report, I didn't expect Trent Williams to play in this game, but he managed to get some reps in on a Friday before this game. So he was healthy enough somehow from the hamstring injury to play in this game, which was a big plus for an offensive line that is not exactly good even when they're healthy, but it's still a plus. So yeah, still though, even though Trent Williams managed to get healthy enough to play going in, there's still not a lot for Brock Purdy to work with, because, well, Ricky the Glass Pearsall was inactive again, and Jordan Watkins, for some reason, he is still inactive. Like, what is Jordan Watkins that bad? Is he that bad that Kyle Shanahan just does not want to activate him? Like, Ricky Pearsall is always injured. Like, the Niners need as much receiver help as possible, especially in a room where you don't really know and you don't really have a downfield threat that you can rely on, and don't know what Jordan Watkins has exactly done to go in the deep doghouse that is of Kyle Shanahan. So you needed as much receiver help as you could possibly get, regardless of how good or bad they are. On the defensive side, obviously, as I mentioned, Tatum Bethune is gone for the season with the torn groin. They also didn't have D. Winters and Luke Guilford for this game with their variety of injuries, as well as defensive lineman Kevin Givens. They haven't had him in quite some time. Kaiser White, who was a desperation signing for on this team late in the last week. He didn't participate in this game because again, he was a very late signee and then he wasn't activated in time. So that meant Eric Hendricks and some guy named Garrett Wallow, and he was probably going to swallow, would start in this game. So yeah, go again. My expectations were pretty low. They were pretty low in this game, and it wasn't going to be great. I was, I was praying for very little and hoping for, and I was expecting the worst going into this. Heck, you know what? I was gonna probably do some reverse shit. I was gonna do some worse shit. Waking up this morning and put this shit on. Yes, you know what this is? This is the Kelly green colors of the Philadelphia Eagles. Maybe some reverse shit would happen. And maybe it turned out to be right. Maybe it was of coincidence, because when this game started, the offense surprisingly did well. Brock Purdy made the most of what he has been given. Sure, it's still shit, but he got the most of what he kind of has. So somewhat. Demarcus Robinson, who has not done anything since 2022, he and Brock Purdy got along pretty well. And they struck very quickly for an opening touchdown that gave him a 7-0 lead pretty quickly. And he was the main target, the main man for Brock Purdy for a lot of this game. But since that opening drive, they pretty much had nothing of substance. Because Christian McCaffrey was bottled up in the running game. The receiving game, he was fine for some parts. But the rushing attack, there was nothing much there because the Eagles front four, they sold out to stop that in order to force Brock Purdy to beat them in the air. And yeah, Kyle really couldn't call up anything better for Purdy after the Eagles forced the turnover on downs twice in this game. So yeah, not a lot was going great for the 49ers for a lot of this game, despite the Eagles' attempts to give away this one. So yeah, when you look at this defensively, despite their inability, they couldn't stop Saquon Barkley, and their inability to stop both Saquon and take Bigsby very early on. Somehow, some way, this game was a 13-10 halftime game. Like when you look at this game, like hold on, this game. I thought this game was going to be a much larger deficit. Like at the very points of the game, I thought this like when the Niners were gonna have this game ran away from them against them somehow, some way. No, it never happened. It did not happen. Why was that? Well, the main thing that I said was going to be one of the key focal points for them to stay in this game: the continued stupidity of offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo and head coach Nick Sirianni. They continued to fuck over their own team. The play calling it started out fine. It started out fine when they set up the offense with having Saquon Barkley run. He was doing well, and when Barkley came out for a couple of plays, Tank Bigsby ran over the 49ers run defense, but eventually they ditched that to overemphasize on Jalen Hurts and the passing attack, which had multiple hiccups. They dropped a lot of passes. So yeah, that was not great for the Philadelphia offense. Now, this is not to say that the 49er defense played well in the first half, because they didn't, and they also did not do much better in the third. Especially Diamador Lenore getting torched and picked on by Jalen Hurts. So, yeah, for all that being said, I was surprised that this was still a 13-10 game at halftime. They weren't behind all that much. But even then, like they couldn't really get get out of their own way for a lot of this game. Brock Purdy threw 2 very bad interceptions to Quinyon Mitchell, dead into his eyes. Like the first one, he just threw it dead into his right. He had Juwan Jennings like open dead center. There was he had a wide open Juwan Jennings, but he elected to throw it to someone else. But yeah, Quinyon Mitchell was there. And then the second one in the fourth quarter, I'm not sure what he was trying to do with Jake Big Tungus. And then, yeah, Quinyon Mitchell clearly read that well. Terrible matchup, by the way. So I don't like that. I didn't like that interception. Fortunately, neither one led to much of anything. So Brock Purdy has that to thank for. And then you had the terrible clock management in this game from the 49ers, including a notable failure from Kendrick Bourne to get set that pissed off Juwan Jennings and probably pissed off Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan because they had to burn a timeout. So that's not great. That's not great for this team. They also had to burn a couple more timeouts throughout this game, so not ideal. So yeah, even with all that being said, this was still a much closer game than I expected. For my pessimistic, faithfully realistic ass. Oh man, I'm just surprised that this was a much tighter game than expected. You can either say some of the following things. The Niners still went toe to toe. They kept the distance with the reigning, defending, undisputed Super Bowl champions for 3 hours, including halftime. And yeah, it was for the following things. Well, Kyle made some gutsy calls in this game, and that included a throwback to Week 18 in 2021 in Los Angeles and in Super Bowl 58. Redialing the clock to Juwan Jennings, the Juwan special, with him and Christian McCaffrey making that big play to give them the lead to start the fourth quarter. And then Brock Purdy overcoming 2 bad interceptions to lead the go-ahead drive after the 2-minute warning. Before the 2-minute warning, and found Christian McCaffrey for the go-ahead touchdown. And yeah, that's it. Sure, it left them the Eagles a lot of time, but the defense had to protect a 23-19 lead, and they managed to kind of successfully do so. They allowed a big Dallas Goedert 4th down catch, but they still managed to stand its ground and kept Jalen Hurts and the Eagles out of the end zone, deflected 3 straight passes, and they managed to win this one. They managed to upset the reigning and no longer defending Super Bowl champions. And wow. I guess this really was the reverse curse that the Niners really needed. Yeah, me wearing this for all my audio listeners out there to audio describe. This is an Adidas Kelly Green shirt. Yeah, I woke up living dangerously. Living cursefully. But no, seriously, I had very low expectations for this game, and the Niners just had that never seen 17 John Cena Rocky mentality with all the injuries. It's either that or the Eagles just self-destructed again. Maybe it's both, but I was very surprised by the results of this game. Like, this is probably one of the teams in Kyle Shanahan's best victories again under Kyle Shanahan. The major downside of this game obviously was the injury, the very, very bad and terrible injury to George Kittle. Early in the second quarter, he tore his Achilles. Like, oh man, that was like a gut punch. That was like a gut punch to that team. Like during that drive, and you can like visibly see like where he tore his Achilles, like it popped. It absolutely popped. And it wasn't good. It wasn't good. And he was already playing through a low to mid ankle sprain that I'm starting to believe he came back from too early. And now he has a torn Achilles. And it's looking like, I'm no doctor, but from what I'm seeing on Twitter from these media analysts, and there was one doctor on Twitter, like actual certified doctor, that he may not be ready for he's clearly not going to be ready for next season, but he could be out for the entire next season. So, man, what a bummer. What a bummer. Another win comes at another cost for San Fran. Just brutal, man. Just brutal. I'm trying to keep my hopes up for the next game, and hopeful that they can win it for George. They can really win this for Kittle for the next game. But again, I'm going to try to keep my hopes faithfully realistic for for the next game. Just to fuck with all of you. I'm just kidding. But anyway, let's talk about it from the Eagles side of things. For the Philadelphia Eagles, obviously they were heavily favored in going into this game. And going into this one, they rested all their starters in the Commanders game, and they were going to this well rested, well fresh, and they were gonna get back some of their players, especially one particular player that hasn't played since week 11, if I remember correctly, since late November, and that was right tackle Lane Johnson. He practiced all week, but it wasn't enough for him to return in this one. He was a late inactive in this game, and his backup Fred Johnson had to fill in for him. And I'd say even then, the offensive line still held up pretty well because, well, the 49ers don't have a pass rush. Let's keep it a buck. So they allowed an opening touchdown drive, maybe because, well, the entire team, most of the starters were coming off a layoff from the Commanders game. But the defense, once they got settled in, they kept Purdy in the offense at bay for a lot of this game, especially Christian McCaffrey, again, to force Brock Purdy to do more in the air. And I'd say it was to mixed success, especially with 2 interceptions from Quinyon Mitchell. Offensively, it looked like the Eagles were going to start running away with the game with Saquon and Tank Bigsby running over the 49ers run defense, along with 2 very nice touchdowns from Jalen Hurts to Dallas Goedert. I kind of like the riskiness that Kevin Patullo, for as very bad as he is as a coordinator, and head coach Nick Sirianni, the risk that they took on 4th down in the red zone, they took advantage of that, of the opening that Hurts and Goddard got. So yeah, they took the lead 13-6 by that point in the game. But as things were, all the good, everything in between those things, just when you thought that they were gonna start running away with this game, start having all the good momentum on their side, no, that all slowly went to piss, because Kevin Patullo, he started to piss away the momentum because he got too pass happy again. Sure, it worked to some degree against a very weak 49ers pass defense, but at times where Jalen Hurts and his receivers, they were not on the same page, especially AJ Brown. AJ Brown was dropping plenty of passes. I think it was Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady. They talked about how AJ Brown didn't catch a pass since the first quarter until the 4th quarter. Ouch, man. If you're talking about for a frustrated player like AJ Brown, basically no showing in this game and not playing well in a game like this, not good. not good for a player with season-long frustration. It didn't get any better in the second half, by the way, for this entire offense. Like, not many adjustments were made. Like, they continued to deviate from Saquon and Tank Bigsby. And that's what I thought, that they would that they would really lean on, spamming Saquon and to a degree Tank Bigsby, because when you look at how well they did with the run in the first quarter and early in the second, you thought they would continue to spam Saquon and the Tank. But no, they didn't. They didn't spam that. So Jalen Hurts had to take things into his own hand a couple of times by running the ball himself at the snap, and he had some success with that. They also ran the tush push a few times on 3rd and 4th and 1. So it's been a while since they ran the tush push, but in for most cases, Jalen Hurts continued to carve up the 49ers defense by feeding Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. But in the end, they couldn't finish with the most important points, touchdowns. They had to settle for either punts or Jake Elliott field goals, and some of which Jake Elliott missed. He missed an extra point early in the game, and I believe he also missed one in the second half, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, if you have to win the game, you have to make more touchdowns than the one you made early in the first half. So, not good for this pretty like vanilla Eagles offense. And it's a shame too, because they have a very good defense coordinated by Vic Fangio, a familiar name that the 49ers fans should know, because they had all the momentum for most of this game. Like, that defense, like, they were really carrying them in this one. Again, that front four silenced Christian McCaffrey, Quillian Mitchell, intercepted Brock Purdy twice in the second half, but a lot of it led to nothing. Some, like, a few of those things led to at least a Jake Elliott field goal, but nothing more than that. This is not to say that the defense has their own issues, because their secondary allowed some key explosive plays, especially in the 49ers go-ahead touchdown drive. So, like, we can't exclude the secondary for their own issues. So, yeah, all in all, like, this is a playoff game that the Eagles really want to forget, and their own fan base, which they really booed, they really booed them hard for. Yeah, like, this was all capped by a brutal 4-down sequence. In the end, Jalen Hurts got tripped up, and then he threw 3 straight incompletions that I'm not sure who he was really throwing to, because they all got tipped. One was nearly intercepted in the red zone and near the end zone, but in the end, like, 3 straight tip passes, that it's not exactly great for this offense. But yeah, the Niner defense heavily locked down on the Eagles offense to basically wipe away the Eagles' hopes of repeating as Super Bowl champions, and we're guaranteed a new Super Bowl champion in a month. So to close things off for both teams, for the 49ers, I still have plenty of questions about their playoff longevity, because the injuries potentially catching up to them, like if and when it'll catch up to them, especially with one of their biggest key players in George Kittle now being gone for the rest of the playoffs and likely for all of next year. Remember, they already lost George Kittle. They've already lost Fred Warner. They've already lost Michael Williams, and now they've lost George Kittle. Oof, man. And they also lost one of their backup linebackers in Tatum Bethune. So now they're on the backup to the backup to the backup. So, but somehow, some way, they're persevering for right now. They got a never seen 17 John Cena like win. So, yeah, they won this game, but now they face a taller task against in the top seeded Seattle Seahawks in a 3-match on Saturday. Yes, the NFL decided to schedule this team on a Saturday on another short week. It's not the first time that the NFL decided to make the 49ers their worst enemy too. But anyway, who knows what'll happen? Who knows what'll happen in this divisional 3-match? But that said, maybe setting the bar low again. Maybe setting the bar low again for this team and expecting the worst might be the way to go. Because the opposite clearly happens. It happened in 2021, at least up to the NFC title game, when I said, the Cowboys and the Packers were going to eventually smash this team, that 2021 team. I don't know. Maybe I got to set the standard very low again. Maybe just got to do it again. But, seriously, I got to commend this 49ers team. No matter what happens on Saturday against the Seahawks, I gotta seriously commend them for, really fighting, like with all the injuries that faced them. They haven't given up. They went the distance despite losing George Kittle to a very bad Achilles injury, and they went the distance and even like dethroned the defending Super Bowl champions. But again, they got another big time test coming up against the Seahawks in a 3-match against them. Not even long ago that they faced a team in 2 weeks. So for the Eagles, this was a matchup that they were heavily favored in. They rested their starters 2 weeks ago, and this was one that everyone expected them to win. Not only did resting their starters officially backfire on them, but this game was pretty much a symbolization of almost everything that went wrong offensively for this team. No, actually, this is a game that everything went wrong offensively for this team. Like Kevin Patullo driven away from Saquon Barkley and the run in general when it was working for a quarter and a change in this game, which in turn put more pressure on Jalen Hurts and the passing attack, which was already doing bad enough in this game. Like the inconsistency of them doing good, but then the bad started showing up from that passing attack. And then you had the frustrations boiling up again from AJ Brown and him and Nick Sirianni getting into a big confrontation again. Devontae Smith and AJ Brown dropping passes in the game's most crucial moments. And a lot of dysfunction and not a lot of team effort in this one for the Philadelphia Eagles in the game in a playoff game. And I'll be bold on this one. Even if they had played the 7-seeded Packers, I feel like the Packers would have beat them too. If the Packers didn't obviously choke, if the Packers don't pull a choke job on them like they did against the Bears, but you get my point. Like for all the dysfunction, for all the issues that the Packers have too, I feel like if they rematched with the Eagles, I feel like the Packers would have beat this Eagles team too. Because this, in spite of their own issues, Jordan Love would have played well in this game too, to somewhat mask those deficiencies. So overall, it was always going to be hard to replace Kellen Moore at offensive coordinator, but even an outside filthy casual non-Eagle fan really wasn't going to expect Kevin Patullo to be this bad replacing him. And going into the offseason for Philadelphia, like the top need for them is to obviously address finding a better offensive coordinator. Like I feel like ownership in the front office, they got to force Nick Sirianni to fire Kevin Patullo, because Nick Sirianni's not going to do it. Like, he's not going to do it voluntarily. Like, the front office in Howie Roseman and the ownership in Jeffrey Lurie, like they were clearly seeing, like, front hand for 18 games how bad this offense was under Kevin Patullo's, like, play calling watch. So they have to make a change. They have to make yet another change at offensive coordinator and hopefully hire a better, more quality one from the outside, not one of Nick Sirianni's, like, friends. And so, like, they can't waste another good defensive season from Vic Fangio. I'm not sure who that would be. Maybe you can go and get Mike McDaniel, or I don't know who would be the best one out there. Another thing that they should address, but not in the near future, but maybe finding a successor at right tackle for Lane Johnson, because you don't know how much time he has left in playing, and also, like, the injury that he had with the foot injury, like it's a little surprising that he wasn't able to come back for this one. So now, with all that being said, let's preview all with the 49ers upcoming game, their divisional playoff game, with the number one seeded, the top seeded Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, somehow, some way, the hospital ass, injury mania, running wild ass 49ers, they're moving on. They're going on to face the NFC's top seeded Seahawks. If it was the other way around, well, the 49ers would be hosting this game. But hey, we're here. Like, they're here at this point. And again, this is a 3-match from their division series this season. The Niners beat the Seahawks in week 1. Obviously, this was a much different Seahawks team than we saw them way back in September, as 2 weeks ago when the Niners hosted the Seahawks with everything on the table for the NFC, with the West and the NFC's top seed. They silenced Brock Purdy and that running game of Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker III. They crushed the 49ers run defense. So yeah, the Seahawks, they beat the 49ers for pretty much all the marbles 2 weeks ago. The offense for the 49ers is going to be going in even more depleted without Kittle, but you got to hope that they'll have learned some lessons from that game 2 weeks ago. And this time around, Trent Williams will at least play to give Brock Purdy some more protection against that Seahawks front four, and hopefully provide Christian McCaffrey will play much better against that Seattle run defense. And without George Kittle, you got to hope that Big Chungus Tungus, he steps up to in the forever for now absence of Kittle, and you got at least from the time of this recording, you got to hope that Ricky Glass Pearsall plays in this game, because you need another receiving threat, and because you never know what you'll get out of DeMarcus Robinson again. Defensively, there has to once again be fight from Robert Saleh's hospital-ass yet young squad defense against a tough Seahawks offense, especially against Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker III, as well as don't discount Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith-Njigba, who they have had a lot of trouble with in the last game. So overall, the Niners are going in severely banged up again, against a more well-rested Seahawks team in a very hostile environment in this 3-match. So, yeah, again, keeping those expectations pretty low for this matchup. But anything goes. Anything goes from this point onward. Win or lose, I mean, I'm just surprised that the Niners made it to this point, and anything moving forward is extra. Anything moving forward is real extra. But we'll see what happens. We'll just have to see what happens. So yeah, that is the final for the 49ers NFC Wild Card game in a big upset over the defending Super Bowl champion, no longer defending Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles, 23-19. Big upset for my San Francisco 49ers. For all you listening and all of you watching, hopefully you are. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube, and if you happen to be listening, whatever podcast network you're on, let me know in a DM on my socials at Very Cold Lasagna, and yeah, let's have a conversation about it. But yeah, that is it for this episode of the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. I am your host, Dylan Lasagna, once again, bringing you all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports for you sports fans out there like you and me. And yeah, this was a crazy game, a crazy, unexpected result. Again, keeping those standards low. But yeah, we'll be back to review the rest of the wild card weekend slate and all the wackiness that happened from the first round of the 2025 playoffs. But until then, until the next episode, peace out.